My name is Jenna, and I'm 35 years old. For as long as I can remember, my family has been a complicated web of love, pride, and quiet resentment. Threads that looked like silk on the outside but were actually razor wire underneath. I grew up in what people would call a successful family, the kind that smiled for holiday photos and sent out group messages full of fake warmth. But beneath the surface, our bond was held together by control, money, and appearances. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story. It's a reminder that betrayal sometimes wears the face of family. And revenge. Well, revenge can be the sweetest justice when the heart has been broken too many times. It all started on my birthday, a date I'd always associated with awkward phone calls, last-minute texts, and the occasional dinner invitation that usually got postponed. But that year felt different. I woke up hopeful, maybe even a little excited. 35 wasn't exactly young, but it felt like a turning point. I had a stable job, a decent apartment, and had finally stopped expecting too much from people. Or so I thought. That morning around 8:13 a.m. my phone buzzed. It was a message from my dad. Just one line. Dad, don't expect anyone to show. First I laughed. I thought it was a joke, maybe some dry attempt at humor. But something about the tone, cold, flat, made my stomach twist. No emojis, no explanation. Just that. I didn't even have time to process it before another notification popped up. It was from the family group chat, one that had been silent for weeks. I opened it, expecting a happy birthday message or maybe a meme. Instead, what I saw made my throat tighten. It was a photo, a group selfie of my parents, my two brothers, their wives, even my aunt and uncle. All of them smiling under the bright Miami sun. The caption read, "Finally together. Family vacation." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the hum of the refrigerator. The date on the photo was today. My birthday. They had all gone on a trip together, and not a single one of them had mentioned it to me. For a long minute I couldn't move. My phone felt heavy in my hand, like it carried all the weight of years of being the afterthought. My chest burned with a familiar ache I hadn't felt since childhood. Being the quiet one, the one who didn't quite fit into their polished picture. Then, slowly, something inside me shifted. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was something sharper, colder. I typed just one message back. Me. What a coincidence. Then I locked my phone, set it face down, and sat there in silence. The walls of my apartment felt smaller, like the air itself was pressing down on me. My birthday cake, a small one I'd bought the night before, sat untouched on the counter. That night, after hours of pacing and replaying every childhood slight, every fake smile, every time they made me feel like an outsider, I opened my laptop. You see, what my family never really understood was that I was the one who handled most of their financial logistics. I was the responsible one. The one they trusted with the practical stuff. Credit accounts, shared funds, even business reimbursements, because Jenna's the sensible one. They loved to control the spotlight, but they let me control the numbers. So, I logged into every shared financial account. Company cards, family trusts, travel budgets. One by one I froze them. Every single one. The satisfying click of each confirmation felt like justice. By the time I closed my laptop, my heart was pounding. Not with guilt, but with a strange, steady calm. They had left me out of their family. So I simply returned the favor. When I finally went to bed, I wasn't thinking about their laughter in Miami or my father's cold text. I was thinking about what would happen when they woke up to realize what I'd done. The next morning my phone was glowing. 78 missed calls. My voicemail box was full. Messages piled up faster than I could read them. Mom. Jenna, what on earth did you do? The cards aren't working. Dad. You've gone too far this time. Call me immediately. Ethan, my brother. Sis, we're stranded here. Are you serious? Lauren, his wife. This isn't funny. We have dinner reservations tonight. I sipped my coffee slowly, scrolling through the chaos. Each message a small victory. For years they'd made me invisible. But that morning they finally saw me. Still I didn't respond. Not yet. I left them to stew in confusion for hours, imagining their credit cards being declined at the hotel desk, their perfect smiles cracking as they realized the vacation of their dreams had just turned into a financial nightmare. By noon, I received a final text from my dad that made me laugh out loud. "Dad. Jenna. Fix this now, or you'll regret it." Regret it. Oh, I had regretted everything for years. Every time I forgave them. Every time I believed their promises that things would be different. That text didn't scare me, it fueled me. I decided it was time for my turn to speak. I opened the family group chat again. Typing slowly, deliberately, I wrote, "I just thought you all needed a moment together. No distractions, no money to hide behind. You said not to expect anyone to show, Dad. So I didn't." Then I hit send. The chat went dead silent. For a moment, I imagined their faces. The confusion, the dawning realization, the anger. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. After that message, I turned off my phone and went for a walk. The November air felt heavy, but it was cleansing. Cold enough to sting, just enough to keep me grounded. For once, I wasn't the one waiting by the phone, hoping someone cared enough to reach out. I had flipped the balance. By the time I returned home, my email inbox was flooded. My dad had sent a long message marked urgent. The subject line read, "We need to talk." It started with the usual, "You've embarrassed the family. You've overstepped your place. You've always been too emotional." The same script, recycled through years of manipulation. But then came the line that truly made me pause. "Everything you have, Jenna, is because of this family. Don't forget that." I sat there staring at those words, my hands trembling. Not with fear but disbelief. They really believed that. After all these years of carrying their weight, of cleaning up their mistakes, they still thought I owed them. They had no idea how wrong they were. See, my father was the kind of man who loved control. He was charming in public. A respected businessman, generous at church, always ready with a smile that could convince anyone he was the world's best dad. But behind closed doors, he ruled our house with fear and guilt. Growing up, I learned early that affection had a price. If you wanted approval, you had to earn it. If you disagreed, you were the problem. My brothers learned how to play along. I, on the other hand, learned how to survive quietly. I became the background character in my own family. Seen but not celebrated. But now, I was done being quiet. That evening I sent a message to my father privately. Kept it short. "You told me not to expect anyone to show, remember?" I finally listened. He didn't reply immediately. Instead, my brother Ethan called. His voice came through sharp and shaky. "Jenna, what's wrong with you?" he snapped. "You froze everything. Dad's furious, Mom's crying, this is insane." I leaned back in my chair, calm. "You're in Miami, Ethan. Go swim. Relax. This isn't a joke. The hotel's threatening to kick us out. We can't even pay for dinner." "That's funny," I said quietly. "Because I couldn't even get a birthday card." There was a pause. I heard him sigh, a frustrated exhale that told me he wanted to argue but didn't know how. "Look, maybe it was messed up," he muttered. "But you could have said something instead of this." "Oh, trust me," I replied. "I've said plenty over the years. You just never listened." And before he could respond, I hung up. That night, I opened a bottle of wine and sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker like fading stars. My phone buzzed every few minutes, but I ignored it. For once, the silence was comforting. But revenge, as satisfying as it was, doesn't end with one good strike. It unfolds, slowly, beautifully, like a plan years in the making. The next morning, I sent a carefully worded email to the family accountant. I explained that I detected suspicious spending patterns in the family's shared business accounts and, per protocol, had suspended all financial activity pending a review. It was clean, professional, and impossible to dispute without admitting negligence. Then, I forwarded a copy to my father, adding one line at the bottom. "Transparency is important, don't you think?" I knew what this meant. It would trigger an internal audit of his company. Every expense, every hidden transaction, every personal indulgence disguised as business. It wasn't just revenge anymore. It was exposure. By noon, my mom finally called. Her voice was soft, trembling, almost rehearsed. "Jenna, honey, please. You've made your point. Can't we just talk?" I closed my eyes, hearing the same tone she'd used 100 times before. The one meant to calm, to make me doubt myself. "Talk," I repeated. "Like the way you all talked about a family vacation, while planning it behind my back?" "It wasn't like that, sweetheart. We didn't think you'd want to come. Because I never do, right? Because I'm always the problem." She hesitated. I could hear her swallow. "It was supposed to be simple. You know how your father gets." There it was. "You know how your father gets." The sentence that excused everything he ever did. "I do know," I said quietly. "That's why I'm finally doing something about it." Before she could respond, I ended the call. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from anger. It was from release. For years, I'd been trapped in their version of reality. Now, for the first time, I was rewriting it. The audit email had already caused waves. By evening, my father's business partner reached out, confused and alarmed. Word spread fast, and soon the perfect image of my father, the man everyone respected, began to crack. I didn't take joy in ruining him. Not exactly. What I felt was justice. Slow, deliberate, overdue justice. By the end of that week, they returned from Miami. My father showed up at my apartment unannounced, still dressed in his travel suit. His face red with fury. The knock on my door was sharp and rhythmic. I didn't open it right away. When I finally did, his expression could have frozen glass. "What the hell have you done?" he demanded. I leaned on the doorframe, calm. "Happy birthday to me, right? This isn't a game, Jenna. You humiliated me. You jeopardized everything I built." "No," I said softly. "You did that yourself. I just stopped cleaning up your mess." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You think you're some kind of hero now? You're nothing without this family." I met his eyes, steady. "Maybe. But at least now I'm free." He stared at me for a long time, his jaw clenching, his pride battling his anger. Then he turned, muttering something under his breath, and walked away. When the door closed, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. That was the last time I saw him in person. The following days passed in a strange blur, quiet but charged. My phone was still buzzing with unanswered messages, but the chaos had finally shifted away from me. The accountant's audit triggered an internal review, and soon enough, whispers began to spread through my father's company. Irregularities, unexplained withdrawals, hidden accounts. Words that once would have terrified me now felt like music. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of what would happen next. You see, the thing about revenge is that it's never really about destruction, it's about balance. You can't destroy people who are already hollow inside. You just hold up a mirror and let them see what they really are. I spent the next week sorting through old family files, the ones they'd always left to me because I was the organized one. Among them, I found years of forged signatures, fake invoices, quiet cover-ups I'd been forced to approve, for the family's sake. That phrase, "for the family's sake," had been their leash around my neck. I took every document, scanned them, and sent them anonymously to the board of my father's company. Then, just as quietly, I deleted every trace of my involvement. That same evening, a storm rolled in. Heavy rain tapping against the windows like impatient fingers. I sat by the fireplace, the glow casting long shadows across the room, and thought about how strange it was that revenge could feel so peaceful. My phone rang again. This time I answered. It was my brother Ethan. His voice was softer now, drained of the arrogance it once carried. "Jenna, Dad's in trouble," he said. "The company's freezing his assets. He's losing everything." I closed my eyes for a moment. Then maybe he'll finally understand what it feels like to be left out. "Please," Ethan whispered. "This isn't you. You're not this cruel." I almost laughed. You think I'm cruel? Then you all forgot me on purpose. You laughed in photos while I ate birthday cake alone. You told yourselves I was too distant, too serious. And now that I finally act like I don't need you, suddenly I'm cruel. He didn't answer. I heard him exhale, a sound that carried shame more than anger. I didn't know it hurt you that much, he said quietly. You didn't want to know, I replied. None of you did. After that, there was nothing left to say. I hung up and let the rain drown the silence. The next morning I drove to the family house, the same house where every childhood memory was born and bruised. The one that smelled of polished wood and expensive lies. I hadn't been there in years, not since I'd moved out. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked smaller, lonelier. The once bright paint had faded. The windows were dark. My mother's car was gone, but my father's black SUV was still there, parked crooked, as if even he no longer cared about appearances. I stood on the porch for a long moment before walking in. The door was unlocked, typical of him, thinking no one would ever dare to enter without permission. Inside, the air was stale, thick with a scent of dust and something metallic like forgotten anger. I walked through the hallway, past framed photos of smiling faces that now felt like strangers. There was one of me taken years ago, tucked at the corner of a family portrait, as if they'd almost forgotten I was there. I found him in the living room, sitting in his armchair with a drink in his hand. The TV was on muted, flashing news headlines about corporate scandal and financial misconduct. His empire was crumbling and he knew it. When he saw me, he didn't speak right away. Just stared. The proud man I'd grown up fearing looked smaller, older, defeated. You've ruined me, he finally said. His voice cracked slightly, though he tried to hide it. A second I felt something twist inside me. Because deep down, part of me feared it was true. Maybe I had inherited his coldness. Maybe revenge had made me the same kind of person I hated. I took a deep breath. No, I said quietly. I'm the version of you who learned compassion, and what happens when it's wasted. He didn't reply. He just sat there staring into the storm outside. I left without another word. As I closed the door behind me, I felt the weight of years lift off my shoulders. Not joy, not triumph. Just relief, the kind that comes when you finally stop bleeding for people who never cared you were cut. Over the next few weeks, things unfolded quickly. The company removed him from the board. Investigations followed. My mother moved out quietly, probably to save what little reputation she could. My brothers tried to reach out again, their texts suddenly full of concern and apologies. I didn't block them, but I didn't reply either. Some wounds don't need conversation, they just need closure. On the day I turned 36, exactly 1 year later, I sat alone again, this time by choice. I lit a single candle on a cake and smiled. My phone buzzed with new messages, birthday wishes from friends, co-workers, even a few people I'd met online. But what made me smile most was the silence from my family. Because silence, I'd learned, can be the loudest piece of all. Before I blew out the candle, I whispered to myself, "Here's to never being invisible again." And this time I meant it.